Welcome back everyone. I wanted to talk about a play I have noticed recently. This play isn't anything particularly exciting, but I do think it's safer than others and still has a decent return. Back in June 2023, I purchased multiples of popular AR cards or character rare cards, these specifically being the Sleepy Mew from V-Star Universe and the Gengar from Dark Phantasma. These ran me right around £5 each, so pretty cheap considering the amazing artworks these have. And personally, as these have the grey borders, I think they look better in Japanese than their English counterparts. The card just meshes better with the border. So we have some popular Pokemon, that's a good start. So I decided to purchase 10 of each to test the waters. These were purchased from a reputable seller on eBay and were shipped straight from Japan. Not long after they arrived, I decided to grade 4 of each that I thought were PSA 10 worthy. And what would you know, I was fortunate enough that all of them came back in PSA 10s. At the time, they were each roughly around £30 cards, and I felt this was pretty undervalued, so I sat on them with good confidence in the value climbing. And now, in this strong market we find ourselves in, they have jumped to £55 each, with a number of copies selling every day on eBay. This is also reflected in what we have sold at the shows. We have now attended 3 shows, and we have sold 2 copies of each card between all the shows, so a pretty strong seller. At the moment, I think these cards are in a good place where collectors can get great artwork and it doesn't break the bank. So going back to the play, these cards have cost me 5 a piece and grading cost me right around £16, so we're roughly in them for £21 a piece. So even after postage and fees, or in my case a bit of haggling at card shows, let's say you sell them at £50 each, that's still a 2.4x return. Like I said, nothing crazy for Pokemon over 2 years, but something I'd like to think was safe and somewhat predictable. Now in this scenario, we also had 6 of each left over that we didn't grade. Well, the Gengar Raw right now is around £11, which would give you a 2.2 return, and the Mew is sitting pretty at £17, a 3.4x. This says a couple of things to me. Either you might as well not grade and just buy more raw with what you would have spent grading and still get nearly the same return, or in the case of the Mew, even better, or the PSA 10 copies are undervalued at the moment and are due a spike relative to the raw card price. Let me know which one of these you think is more likely. So how am I looking at repeating this play? I'm in fact looking at both Japanese and English at this time, but keeping the philosophy of popular Pokemon for a good price. I've sifted through all the S and V sets and this is what I like in both Japanese and English, but I will only name the English sets for ease. We'll start with the Slowpoke AR from S and V base. I've come to really like this artwork recently and have had many asks for it at shows. The Ghastly from Temporal Forces, being a Gengar pre-evolution, it's a pretty easy pick. From 151, I like a few of the cards, especially in Japanese, as these in some cases are a quarter of the price of English. Those are the Pikachu, the Mewtwo, which is the English promo, and the Snorlax, which is also an English promo. I did want to include the Mew in this, but the promo and both the Japanese one that's in the set have jumped quite a bit recently, so the ship may have sailed on that one. Then moving into Shrouded Fable, I like the Persian in Japanese, still being sub £10, and to be honest, that's about it from that set that I like. Being a bit biased, but I obviously like the Latios from Surging Sparks in Japanese, again keeping it sub £10, but like I say, I may be a little biased on that one. The Articuno from Journey Together also looks appetising in either language, but obviously the English one is more, but might be worth a look if you can snag them for sub 20, along with the Reshiram to be fair. And finally, one of the more recent sets, Destined Rivals, the Meowth in Japanese is sub £10, which is nearly a third of what it is in English, and is a really unique artwork for this set. So for most of these cards, I do favour the Japanese counterpart for this play, but in some scenarios the English versions are just as appealing. The difference is with this era, as opposed to the play that I did previously, is that both the Japanese and the English have silver borders, so the playing field is a bit more even. Overall, I do like the Japanese counterparts as the barrier to entry is lower, with almost all the cards being around half the price of the English counterparts, and if you do decide to grade, you know the quality is going to be there with the Japanese. This also helps with bulk ordering. Japanese cards will be fine, but I would rather inspect English cards to find the good ones, and this will definitely take a lot more time. Let me know if you think this is still a play, guys, or any other cards that you think are a good pickup at the moment. Thank you for watching.